Opening part. Fear. It is one of the oldest companions of the human mind. It has followed us through every age, every generation, every life. It's there before the leap, before the decision, before the moment that could change everything. It whispers when the room falls silent. It holds our voice when we want to speak, tightens our chest when we want to move. And doubt is fear's quieter brother. It rarely shouts. It simply asks questions. Who are you to try? Are you sure? What if you fail? Most people spend their lives negotiating with these two forces, trying to outrun them, trying to silence them, trying to pretend they aren't there. But the more we run, the louder they become. Because fear does not disappear when ignored, it deepens. And doubt does not fade when resisted, it spreads. So what if the Stoics, those ancient philosophers who lived through war, exile, sickness, betrayal, and the full weight of life, what if they were right? What if fear is not something to destroy, but something to understand? What if doubt is not a weakness, but a mirror, revealing where we've placed our worth? The Stoics believed that fear is not the enemy. Fear is information. Fear is a signal pointing toward the edge of your growth. And doubt is not proof of inadequacy, but a reminder of how deeply we care about the outcome. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who led armies and ruled an empire through plague and chaos, wrote in his private journal, "Not for the world, only for himself. If you are troubled by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimation of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Meaning, you are not afraid of the world. You are afraid of your thoughts about it. It is your interpretation, your imagination, your projection that gives fear its claws. Think about it. You're not afraid of climbing the mountain, you're afraid of falling. You're not afraid of speaking the truth, you're afraid of being judged. You're not afraid of trying, you're afraid of failing, and what that failure will mean about you. But those meanings, they are not reality. They are stories. Stories the mind writes when it does not yet trust itself. So the question is not, how do we eliminate fear? How do we silence doubt? The real question is, how do we walk forward anyway? How do we act in the presence of fear rather than in its shadow? The Stoics believed there is a deeper courage, a quieter courage, the courage of the steady mind. Not the loud, heroic leap, not the dramatic display, but the simple, calm decision. I will move toward what I believe is right, even if I tremble while doing it. Because courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is taking the next step while fear is still present. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality," meaning most of what you fear will never happen. And even when difficulty does come, you will meet it with the same strength that has carried you to this exact moment. You are not weak because you feel fear. You are human. You are not broken because you doubt yourself. You are growing. Fear is the threshold of transformation. Doubt is the doorway of mastery. And what's on the other side? A life where you act from reason, not panic. Where you live according to your values, not your anxieties. Where you move forward not because you are unafraid, but because you are determined. So, take one slow breath. Feel the air fill your lungs. Feel the ground beneath your feet. You are here. You are alive. You are capable of more than you imagine. In this video, we will explore the Stoic path. A path walked by warriors, emperors, exiles, scholars, and ordinary people facing extraordinary challenges. A path that teaches how to understand fear rather than be controlled by it. How to turn doubt into discipline. How to take action when the mind wants to run. How to live freely, calmly, deliberately, no matter what the world brings. This is not about blind bravery. This is not about pretending to be fearless. It's about learning to live alongside uncertainty, with a steady heart and a clear mind. Part 1: The nature of fear and doubt. Fear is not new. It has always lived inside us. Long before screens, cities, and schedules, fear was our guardian. Kept us alive when danger lurked in the dark. It sharpened our senses, made us alert, helped us survive. But today, the threats are different. We are no longer running from predators or hiding from storms. Yet the same ancient machinery inside the mind continues to fire. Now, instead of fearing the tiger in the night, we fear what people will think. We fear failing. We fear being seen trying and not succeeding. We fear standing out. We fear being misunderstood. We fear not being enough. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimation of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." To the Stoics, fear does not come from the world. It comes from our judgment of the world. Two people can face the same situation. One sees crisis, the other sees challenge. One sees humiliation, the other sees learning. One freezes, the other steps forward. The difference is not the situation. It is the mind interpreting it. So the Stoics asked, what is fear really made of? Not danger, not certainty, not truth. Fear is a story projected into the future. It says, if I try, I might fail. If I speak, they might judge me. If I leave, I might lose comfort. If I change, I might lose control. Fear is imagination, wearing the mask of reality. Epictetus, who was born a slave and rose to become a philosopher whose teachings shaped emperors, said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them." Your fear is not about the situation. Your fear is about the meaning you have attached to it. You don't fear public speaking. You fear being seen as inadequate. You don't fear starting something new. You fear failing in front of others. You don't fear the unknown. You fear losing the familiar, even if the familiar is limiting you. Fear is psychological gravity, keeps you where you are. And doubt? Doubt is the whisper that reinforces that gravity. Doubt says, wait, not yet, later, convinces us that delay is wisdom. But in truth, delay is just fear in disguise. The Stoics described fear and doubt as clouds passing through the mind, not the mind itself. Your fear is not you. Your doubt is not you. They are temporary weather patterns in the sky of consciousness. But here is where most people get trapped. They believe that they have to wait for fear to disappear before they act. They think courage means feeling ready. But the Stoics knew, you will never feel completely ready. Courage is not born in comfort. Courage is born in the moment of decision. When your legs are shaking, your heart is beating fast, your mind is unsure, and you move anyway. Marcus Aurelius wrote privately to himself, "Today I will meet anxiety, fear, misunderstanding, selfishness, and ignorance. But none of these can harm me because they cannot touch my integrity." Fear can touch your nerves, can touch your thoughts, can touch your pulse, but it cannot touch your character unless you let it. So when the Stoics felt fear, they did not run. They observed. They asked, what story is my mind telling me? Is this fear based on reality or imagination? What am I afraid this says about me? Is my fear trying to protect me or limit me? And slowly, the clouds began to thin. To the Stoics, fear is not an enemy. Fear is a messenger. It shows you where your growth is waiting. If something scares you because it threatens your ego, that is a sign to move toward it. If something scares you because it challenges your identity, that is a signal of transformation. If something scares you because it requires a new version of yourself, that is the threshold of your next chapter. Fear is the doorway. Doubt is the guard standing before it. And the way forward is not to fight them, but to walk through anyway. So ask yourself now, what are you afraid to try? What conversation are you avoiding? What decision have you been postponing? What truth have you been quiet about? Where does your fear point? Because fear, when understood, becomes direction. And doubt, when examined, becomes clarity. This is the beginning of freedom. Not the elimination of fear, but the reframing of it. Fear is not a wall. It is a compass. And where it points, your growth waits. Part 2, the Stoic view of courage. To the Stoics, courage was not heroic. It was not dramatic. It was not loud. Courage was quiet. It was the quiet act of choosing what is right even when the body trembles. And the mind whispers reasons to turn back. Seneca once wrote, "We are more often frightened than hurt. We suffer more in imagination than in reality." This is one of the most important lines in all of Stoic writing. Because if fear is the imagination creating danger, then courage is the imagination aligned with reason. Courage begins not in the muscles but in the mind, not in force but in clarity. The Stoics understood that courage is not about suppressing fear. It is about recognizing that fear is present and acting anyway. Marcus Aurelius was not born courageous. He learned to become courageous through practice, through the quiet discipline of confronting his own thoughts. In his private journal, the one that was never meant to be read by anyone, he wrote to himself, "Do not be afraid of the future. You will meet it, if you must, with the same reason that arms you against the present." These were not the words of a man who felt fearless. These were the words of a man who felt fear and refused to let it rule him. Because courage, to the Stoics, was simply choosing the better voice inside you. Not the voice of panic, not the voice of insecurity, not the voice of hesitation, but the voice of the inner guardian, the one that says, "You know what is right, do that." The Stoics practiced something known as premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of misfortune. They imagined the worst-case scenario on purpose, not to torture themselves, not to invite failure, but to strip fear of its mystery. They would ask, "What if I lose the opportunity? What if I embarrass myself? What if I fail completely?" And then they would respond, "I will endure. I will rebuild. I will remain myself." Because the Stoics believed the only true harm is the harm done to your character. If you act with integrity, you cannot be damaged. If you remain honest, you cannot be broken. If you stay aligned with your values, then loss has no power over you. Seneca also taught voluntary discomfort, a training of the mind and body. He slept on the floor, wore rough clothing, ate simple food, walked long distances. Why? To prove to himself, if the worst happens, I can endure it. He dismantled fear by living through small versions of it on purpose. Because once you realize you can handle loss, uncertainty, discomfort, you become free from the fear of them. This is courage, not being untouchable but being unbreakable. And Epictetus, who knew the experience of suffering more deeply than most, who was born into slavery, who had his body mistreated, who lost everything multiple times, taught something even more radical. No man is free who is not master of himself. Meaning, if fear controls your actions, you are not free. If doubt decides your choices, you are not free. If comfort determines your path, you are not free. Freedom is inner freedom, the ability to choose your response regardless of fear. To the Stoics, courage was not about running into danger blindly. It was about living with clarity of purpose. They believed that the courageous person asks not, "Will I be safe? Will I be praised? Will I succeed?" But rather, "Is this the right thing to do?" If the answer was yes, then fear had no say in the matter. Courage is a practice. It is built every time you speak even when your voice shakes, try even when the outcome is uncertain, a move forward even when doubt whispers to turn back, choose growth instead of comfort, a show up for life instead of hiding from it. Courage is not a moment of transformation. It is a habit of the soul. The Stoics believed that each day gives you a chance to choose. Will you act from fear or from reason? Will you be shaped by uncertainty or by purpose? Will you shrink or will you rise? And most importantly, will you trust yourself even when your mind trembles? Because the truth is, you don't need to eliminate fear to be courageous. You only need to stop letting fear make your decisions. Fear can exist, doubt can exist, uncertainty can exist, but they do not get the final word. You do. So the Stoic path to courage is simple, but not easy. 1. Acknowledge the fear. 2. Question the story behind it. 3. Remember your values. 4. Act according to those values, not your fear. This is how warriors were formed. This is how leaders endured. This is how ordinary people became unshakable. Not by feeling fearless, but by choosing courage again and again. Part 3. The root of doubt. Doubt is subtle. It does not storm into the mind. It slips in quietly, like a whisper, like a shadow stretched across the doorway of our intentions. Fear is loud and urgent, but doubt is patient. It waits. It waits for the moment when your confidence softens, when your momentum hesitates, when you pause to catch your breath. That's when it speaks. Maybe you're not ready. Maybe this isn't the right time. Maybe someone else would do it better. And the tragedy is, we believe it, not because doubt is truthful, but because doubt sounds familiar. It speaks in our own voice. Where does doubt come from? The Stoics believe doubt is born not from weakness, but from forgetfulness. We forget who we are. We forget what we've survived. We forget the strength we've already shown. We look at our future challenges with none of the memory of our past victories. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, almost like someone trying to convince their own heart, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Doubt arises when we try to control what is beyond us, when we measure ourselves by outcomes we cannot guarantee, when we think success defines us or failure condemns us. The Stoics understood that doubt grows in the gap between what we can control and what we try to control. Epictetus taught the dichotomy of control, the foundation of Stoic psychology. Some things are up to us and some things are not. Up to us, our attitude, our effort, our choices, our character, our honesty, our courage. Not up to us, other people's opinions, outcomes, timing, luck, circumstances. Doubt appears when we place our sense of worth in what is not in our hands. Like saying, "I must succeed or I am not enough. I must be approved of or I have failed. I must not make mistakes or I am unworthy." But the Stoics whispered back, "No, your worth is in your character, not in your outcome. Your value is in your effort, not your perfection. Because outcomes are unstable. Praise is unstable. The world is unstable. But your intent, your principles, your inner will, these are things you can stand on. And where doubt tries to shrink you, clarity expands you." So the Stoics did something powerful. They redefined success. Success was not winning, impressing, achieving, performing. Success was living according to your values. If you acted with courage, if you spoke with honesty, if you moved with purpose, you had succeeded. Whether the world applauded or not did not matter. This is how doubt loses power. When you stop asking, "Will I be good enough?" and start asking, "Am I doing what I believe is right?" Because when your values define your actions, instead of your fears, doubt has nothing to anchor itself to. Doubt also arises from comparison. We look at others and forget that we are seeing their highlight, not their struggle. We compare our internal battle to someone else's surface image. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "Do not waste your time on what others do or say. It is your own duty that matters." The moment you stop comparing, your doubt loses one of its strongest fuels. Because doubt thrives in the question, "Am I as good as them?" But the Stoics replaced that with, "Am I better than I was yesterday?" A different question, a different standard, a different life. You are not here to be perfect. You are not here to impress. You are not here to be accepted by everyone. You are here to grow, to improve, to strengthen your character, to do what is right, to become someone you respect when you look in the mirror. Doubt is not a sign that you are incapable. Doubt is a sign that you are standing at the edge of your growth. You doubt yourself because you are close to becoming more than you have been. And that is why the Stoics did not fear doubt. They welcomed it, because they knew, where there is doubt, there is potential. Where there is resistance, there is transformation. Where there is fear, there is the path forward. So when doubt whispers, "Who are you to do this?" you answer, "I am the one willing to try," because courage is not certainty. Courage is choosing to move without certainty. The Stoics believed that the strongest person is the one who acts with doubt in their heart and still steps forward. Not because they are sure, not because they are fearless, but because they are committed. This is the beginning of mastery, not of the world, not of achievement, but of the self. Part 4: Stoic Practices to Overcome Fear and Doubt. The Stoics did not leave courage to chance. They did not rely on inspiration or motivation or temporary confidence. They trained their minds the same way an athlete trains the body, daily, patiently, deliberately, because courage is not an emotion. Courage is a skill, and like any skill, it is strengthened through practice. Here are 3 Stoic practices, simple, ancient, powerful, to overcome fear and dissolve doubt. 1. Negative visualization. Fear grows in darkness. It grows when we avoid looking at what scares us. The Stoics looked directly at it. They would ask themselves, what is the worst that could happen? And they would imagine it, not emotionally but calmly. What if the plan fails? What if the world does not applaud? What if people misunderstand? What if the opportunity slips away? In the imagination, these outcomes feel unbearable. But when you sit with them gently, when you examine them without panic, you begin to see something surprising. You could survive them. You could learn. You could adapt. You could begin again. The worst thing that could happen is almost never as devastating as the mind insists. Fear is a storyteller, exaggerating, dramatizing, inflating. But when you shine light on the story, its scale shrinks, its teeth dull, its voice quiets. The unknown loses power when you look at it directly. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not let your imagination be crushed by life as a whole. Take the present moment and divide it into manageable parts." Fear is large. Reality is smaller. Reality is manageable. Negative visualization doesn't create fear, it liberates you from it. 2. Voluntary discomfort. Seneca practiced discomfort on purpose. Not to suffer, not to be harsh, but to remember, you need less than you think. You can endure more than you fear. He would sleep on the floor. He would wear simple clothing. He would eat plain food. He would go without luxury. Then he would ask himself, is this what I feared? And the answer was always, no, this is bearable. This is survivable. Fear thrives on the belief that we are too fragile to face discomfort. But when you place yourself gently into small discomforts, a cold shower, a long walk instead of the car, a few hours without your phone, silence instead of constant distraction, you learn something powerful. Your peace does not depend on comfort. And when your peace does not depend on comfort, fear loses one of its greatest weapons. Because fear says, if things change, you will suffer. And voluntary discomfort answers, then I will suffer, and I will be okay. Freedom begins there. 3. Present focus. Fear lives in the future. Doubt lives in imagination. But peace lives here. In the breath. In the body, in the immediate moment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you must, with the same reason you use today. Your strength is not in tomorrow. Your courage is not stored somewhere else. It is here, with you, now. When the mind begins to spiral into what-ifs, you return to the present like an anchor. Feel your breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel the weight of your body. Feel the moment as it is. No story, no prediction, just presence. The mind cannot panic when it is rooted in the present. The Stoics were warriors of the inner world. They trained themselves not to rush into imagined futures. They understood, you can handle this moment, and this moment is all you ever face. Life is lived one breath at a time. These practices do not erase fear. They reshape your relationship with it. Fear will still come. Doubt will still whisper. Uncertainty will still exist. But when practiced daily, a negative visualization weakens fear's illusion. A voluntary discomfort weakens fear's threat. Present focus weakens fear's timing. Fear begins to lose its authority. Doubt begins to lose its influence. And slowly, gently, quietly, you begin to realize something profound. You were stronger than the fear the entire time. The fear was just loud. But you are steady. You are capable. You are resilient. You are still here. And anyone who is still here is not weak. They are enduring. And endurance is the foundation of courage. Part 5. Turning fear into freedom. Fear has always been here, since the first moment of consciousness, since the first spark of awareness in the human mind. Fear is not an enemy. Fear is a signal. It tells us where our limits are and invites us to grow beyond them. Doubt is not a curse. Doubt is a doorway, a threshold we have not stepped through yet. The Stoics understood this. They knew that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is fear walked through. Fear says, "This is the edge." Courage answers, "Then that is where I go." Your fear is not here to stop you. Your fear is here to point you toward the next version of yourself. Where the fear is, there is your frontier. Where the doubt is, there is your calling. The life you dream of, the strength, the clarity, the peace, the purpose. It is on the other side of the fear you are feeling now. Not someday. Not after everything is perfect. Not once all uncertainty is gone. But now, in this breath, in this step, a moment of realization. You have survived every difficult day so far. Every disappointment, every loss, every night of doubt, every moment when you thought you couldn't go on. Yet you did, which means you are not fragile. You are not weak. You are not unprepared. You are already living proof of endurance. And endurance is the foundation of power. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You do not control the world, but you control how you meet it, with presence, with steadiness, with courage. The turning point, you do not eliminate fear. You carry it and move anyway. You do not silence doubt. You hear it and choose your direction anyway. You do not wait for certainty. You act in uncertainty and become certain through action. This is freedom, not the absence of fear, but its transformation. Fear becomes guidance. Doubt becomes invitation. Uncertainty becomes possibility. And you become someone who can walk into the unknown with open eyes. Someone who lives intentionally, deliberately, resiliently. Someone who is unbreakable not because they avoid struggle, but because they welcome growth. So today, do not seek to erase your fear. Instead, say, "This fear I feel is simply life asking me to expand," and step forward, slowly, steadily, breath by breath. Because every act of courage, no matter how small, rekindles the flame inside you. The flame that has never gone out. The flame of your will, your presence, your purpose. The flame of the self you are becoming. Closing reflection. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not lost. You are simply standing on the edge of the next chapter. And now, you know how to walk.